Now let's look at the organization Child Help. I was actually able to make this connection to Culpeper thanks to one of Amazing Polly's YouTube videos. In summary, Child Help is a nonprofit organization that was started by two Hollywood child actresses. Child Help originally started as International Orphans. Child Help started with building orphanages overseas from 1952 to 1959, and I quote from their website, "They, Sarah and Yvonne, collected enough money to build 4 more orphanages in Japan for the mixed breed heritage throwaway children. Due to their great success, Congress requested them to do the same across the seas in Vietnam during the 1960s. This was the beginning of an international involvement with moving children from one country to another. The organization claims that these throwaway children were children who were abandoned by parents from different cultures. Usually the father was in the military overseas during war, and the mother from the country where the serviceman was stationed. Allegedly, neither parent wanted to claim responsibility for the unwanted child. So with Congress intervening, these orphanages started receiving government funding through taxpayer money. This definitely becomes a trend during wartime. There is plenty of questionable things on the Child Help website about their history and organization. However, let's take a look at the year 1991, and I quote, "Child Help purchases 270 acres of land in Culpeper, Virginia, as a site for their new East Coast village. Child Help celebrated the groundbreaking of this new residential treatment facility bearing the name of its major benefactor, Alice C. Tyler." Close quote. What are the odds that Mr. Petty, Gottlieb, and this Child Help treatment facility are all there in Culpeper during the same time period, the 1990s? Starts looking a lot like Stranger Things, doesn't it? Not to mention who was in the White House during the 1990s. I could continue this story on Child Help. However, my focus here is the Culpeper connection, so I digress. Mr. Petty's interview goes on to mention, quote, "Going back to World War II, I kept open house mainly to intelligence and counterintelligence people in Washington. OSS people passing through, things like that." Close quote. Mr. Petty is telling us exactly what and who the finders were involved with, sounding more and more like The Bourne Identity meets Stranger Things, doesn't it? We just didn't quite understand what he was telling us at the time, did we? Not like we understand now. The OSS, or Office of Strategic Services, was the precursor to the CIA. Mr. Petty goes on to state, quote, "I just keep an open house. That's about all I do. It changes as people show up. Basically, we have about 600 acres up there and a few houses, and people who are here more or less permanently now. They spend part of their time in this town, Culpeper, and part of their time in DC, and part of the time up in the mountains, and another part traveling all over the world." Close quote. Mr. Petty's interview continues on. I encourage you to read the full article so noted above, or in the description box. I just would like to summarize by quoting a few more things from that article. Quote, "Sometimes near the end of the war, Chang introduced Petty to Charles E. Marsh at the National Press Club. Marsh, who ran the best private intelligence network of his era and was an intimate of FDR, Henry Wallace, and later Lyndon B. Johnson, became Petty's mentor and role model. Championed his career. Marsh's mentor and role model was Colonel Edward M. House, who was a personal advisor to President Woodrow Wilson circa 1919, often mentioned in connection to the Council on Foreign Relations. Marsh died in December of 1964, his last known address being in Austin, Texas. In the 1950s and 60s, Marsh provides funds for Petty to purchase hundreds of acres of farmland in Virginia, near his estate in Culpeper County. Later, Petty arranged for William Elliott of Harvard University to purchase a property adjacent to him. Elliott was a government professor at Harvard University who was on the National Security Council's planning board and a trustee of Radio Liberty Media. Close quote. The connections run deep in Culpeper and were not finished. I did want to establish the connections Mr. Petty had to Culpeper because there are so many. And you can see even with his relationship with Marsh and House, these were very powerful men, and they were very wealthy men, and they were very much involved in the media and transforming what American citizens perceived about our country. When you tie all the names together, a picture starts to emerge. The whole spider web comes into focus surrounding Culpeper, and it keeps getting bigger. I have found the more I research, the more crazy the connections get. Not only that, the more facts emerge, expanding the story. I will do my best to keep you informed on my findings, especially as this goes along. One thing is for sure, there are a lot of mentions in writing about Culpeper, Virginia, and the intelligence community. Coincidence? What are the connections between Petty, Gottlieb, and Child Help? What could two former experts in MK-Ultra mind control, who are associated with the CIA, have in common with child protection agencies and/or orphanages? The procurement of children to be used as guinea pigs for human experiments? For mind control experiments, among other things? What other strange connections are there? Please stay tuned.